Uncut and Unscripted. Recently, over the past weekend and 24 hours, the news broke that the Netherlands, I should say, released the rest of the second season, mostly all the episodes that even China and Australia have yet to air through the on-demand service. Now, Australia is set to wrap up the series a week from this Friday, or 2 weeks from today, I'm assuming. But with that said, though, when the Netherlands dropped the rest of the series, a lot of backlash came along with it. A lot of backlash towards Jim Miller and some of the creative staff. Now, Jim Miller was the director of the series and directed the episodes. But it seems he became the target of a lot of people's wrath. Now, looking into it more, it seems that what a lot of us suspected to be the reasoning behind all this backlash that he was getting was because of trolls. A lot of people just trolling him. Some people that probably weren't really fans just saying, ooh, let's troll this guy. And say, ooh, you did wrong. We do this to you kind of deal. And it's like, really? You got nothing better to do? I mean, I get the fact that even to this day, even with the last episode officially out there internationally, thanks to the Netherlands, even though it's only in Dutch right now, I'm pretty sure we'll get an English sub even before the Australia version down the line. But still, it's like, you know, even with that, people still just don't understand and what this show has meant to a lot of folks. It's a show that, when you think about it, you look at a lot of stuff that's on television, even on streaming services, and it's like, yeah, there's a bunch of other good shows, but nothing really could compare to what the impact of this show did. Basically, what it accomplished. Now, like I said, unfortunately, there were some people that decided to react in a negative way towards Jim and the rest of the creative staff, either harassing them, even going as far as giving them death threats, which we can only assume is the trolls just trolling them with it, because, you know, it's a moment in time is what it is for a lot of people, the fans and those involved behind the scenes, because this is the end of something that was really a pop culture and still is a pop culture phenomenon. But with that said, the question is, why is this happening? Well, if you take the detractors that are actually nothing but trolls and everything, and you actually look at the detractors that are not doing the death threats, but are just letting out their rage and their anger over the fact that the series ended in a way that they didn't want to see it end, there's an old saying. Sometimes you can't always get what you want, but be happy for what you've received and for what you've had and were given. And that's what a lot of these fans that might be legit detractors and legitimately not happy need to remember. Look, throughout the show's history, not every episode and every season hit it out of the park. Not every episode was a grand slam or was perfect down the middle. There always were going to be hiccups. And what people have to realize is a lot of shows that have come to an end in the past several decades never have good send-offs sometimes in other people's minds. You know, you look at MASH when it did its 2-hour movie finale, Goodbye, Farewell, Amen, I think that's what it was called. And it was one of the most watched finales in history. I'm sure even back then, not a lot of folks were happy with it. Not a lot of folks were thrilled at the way it ended. But the way it ended, though, to a majority of others, was perfect. It was a great send-off. Every character got closure. Every character was able to reunite with their families, and And the ending where it says goodbye is a great way for the show staff, was a great way for the show staff to thank the fans for supporting a show like that for over a decade, 11 years, I believe. But I'll be honest, even though I was a kid back then, about 3 years old, I'm sure not a lot of people were happy with it. And here's the thing though, even though they were not happy, and even though they could still voice their frustration and anger via mail or even phone call, never once, and I've looked, and I could look this up and pretty much be correct on it. Never once did we see, never once was there a death threat or harassment because the show ended in a way people didn't want. And with Friendship is Magic, there's a lot of things that happened in the finale, and even in the two-parter that preceded the finale, that a lot of folks weren't happy with. You know, there were revelations that were made. There were ships that were canonized, if somewhat indicated were canon, to the long-time trained eye, if you will. You know, things like that. There was obviously a lot of, moments in there that showcased that certain characters were no longer around. And for people to come out and make this judgment towards people, to someone like Jim Miller and the creative staff ranging all the way from the beginning with Lauren Faust, who developed the idea, to Megan McCarthy, who took on the role of executive producer from Lauren, to Nicole Dubuc, who took on the role for Megan, to Josh Haber, M.A. Larson, Tony Fleece on the comic, probably helped out in the show. Joanne and Christine, known as the Lady Writers, Gail Simone, Brittany Joe, if you will, and many, many, many others. For folks to kind of disrespect what they've done and put most of their life into for the past decade, it's sad to see. I mean, I get it. We all get it. Not every show, like I mentioned, is going to be a home run. Not every finale is going to be a perfect way to end the series. I mentioned MASH, in the finale that a majority of people enjoyed, but there's no doubt some didn't. You look at Game of Thrones, and yes, that finale is marred in controversy because a majority of people didn't like it, but there's also that small majority that did. It's like you have 75% that didn't like it, you have 25% that did. I'm sure people didn't like the finale to The Big Bang Theory. There's no doubt that, nobody liked, that people had the, feelings and disdain for Endgame or even Far From Home. There's people that's probably not going to like Rise of Skywalker. The point is, nobody's going to be satisfied. But it shouldn't come to a point that those that are not satisfied, whether they're legit or they're just being trolls, joining in on the bandwagon to be trolls. But with those aside, even if it's legit fans, bronies, Pegasisters, if you will, that are not too thrilled, it shouldn't come to a point that if you're not happy, you harass them. You just look at it and say, you know what? It may not be the best in my eyes, but they did what they could. They did what they could, and maybe with a few rewatches, maybe I'll have a better understanding as to why people like it, and I might like it. And in the end, I might like it myself. And And I think that's the general thing. I think that's the general notion and realization that, not everything's going to be a home run. Not everything is going to be a perfect ending. As a wrestling fan, I subscribe to a lot of people on YouTube that are wrestling fans too. And sometimes they'll come on there and they'll complain about certain promotions not booking stories right or booking characters right and stuff like that, and going in a direction that they feel they shouldn't be going in, and yet they still go, and they go all the way to the point that they get a finale to said story arc or said conclusion of story arc that fans may have not been thrilled with. But here's the thing. A majority of fans may not be thrilled with that arc, but there's still that percentage of fans, that small, if not medium-sized group of fans that were cool with it. They liked it. They were fine with it. And that's when you look at something like Friendship is Magic's finale, and the two-part that preceded it. Yeah, not everybody is going to enjoy it. Not everybody was going to be pleased, but it shouldn't be. But here's the thing: those that were not pleased shouldn't be angry. I mean, like I said, it's like I asked on one of the forums and on Twitter, is part of the anger due to the fact that certain ships became a reality or somewhat acknowledged as official and canonized, even though people might say, well, that's your interpretation, others may see it another way? Perhaps. Maybe that's the reason they're angry. Maybe it's the revelation of the fact that who we thought was going to be the main villain turned out to be not exactly who he said he was. The point is, there's going to be decisions that are made. There's going to be decisions and actions that are made to help bring a series to an end. And we're not always going to be thrilled with it. Nobody is. Nobody's going to be happy. But there's always going to be that group of folks that are cool with it. They love it. They're all right with it. They understand, hey, the creative staff did the best they could. Some will even come out and say that when you look at episode 26, the very last episode, that it could be just the fact that they wanted to do 2 separate episodes, but they couldn't, so they combined it into one. And if that's the case, they did a heck of a job in doing so. What I'm getting at, folks, and I don't want to make this too long, is just because we're not happy with something doesn't mean we should go out and harass and threaten people, especially those that work behind the scenes for most of the show's run, and in this case, a decade's worth about. And basically, make their lives, make their days miserable because they didn't do it the way we wanted. Here's the thing. One of the common complaints this season, and somewhat last season, was it felt like the staff was pandering to the fans. They were giving the fans what they wanted to see. And indeed they were. And indeed, I'm not going to deny it. Indeed, it seemed like they were, no doubt about it. They were giving us what we fans that helped make the show what it is today, they gave us what we wanted. They gave us the things we wanted to see. For example, it's no secret that myself and people like George Garza, George Garza on Twitter, DB, Derek Beekman, and several others wanted to see some kind of confirmation in our eyes of Sparity, aka Spike and Rarity. Being more than just friends now, being more than just, BFFs, stuff like that, but something more. And when you interpretate it from what the moments we have seen, then yeah, you get that. You got exactly that. Best Gift Ever gave you probably the best example of that. Rarity being worried about Spike almost being eaten by a freaking giant tortoise in the first 20 seconds of Between Dark and Dawn, the mid-season finale. That was a moment. The upcoming Dragon Dropped is a moment. You know. And then, of course, the possibility of that, of what we saw in the trailer for the finale, that's a moment. The fact is, folks, yes, they did pander, there's no doubt. But again, it was a way of thanking the fans. And when I look at this finale, and I even look at the two-parter, there are things in the two-parter that are pandering to the fans. There are things in the finale that are definitely pandering to the fans. And we have to remember that if it wasn't for us as fans, there wouldn't be no Friendship is Magic. They would have ended it initially and originally as it was supposed to end, with Season 3, and Twilight's coronation as a princess. But thanks to our love and support, it became more. We became more. During Season 4, we got the announcement of a movie, and we got a movie. There were rumblings that they were going to finish what Lauren Faust started, and they were going to finally have Twilight ascend. And currently, right now, the story arc is leading to that. So again, just because we're not satisfied with something doesn't mean the people behind it didn't do their best, because they did. And just because we're not satisfied doesn't mean we should go out and threaten people with harm or just harass them and troll them because they didn't do it our way. And speaking of trolls, we shouldn't just be people that see something like this, pretend we're fans just because we're bored with our lives, or bored with what we're doing, and just decide to make life miserable for people. Because that's not right. That's not good. The fact of the matter is, folks, we're already dealing with a lot of crap in this world. I think Golden Fox said it best on his tweet, on his Twitter. You know, he said it best, go and read that. But I'll tell you, Golden Fox, like I said, he said it best. And so has everybody else when they've gotten a chance. So all I'm going to say is this. I'm going to join what people are saying. And that is, in the end, hashtag thank you Jim, thank you Big Jim, hashtag thank you Big Jim, hashtag thank you Jim Miller. Thank you for taking time out of your life over the past decade to not only communicate with us as fans online and at the conventions, but thank you for helping to direct some of the best moments in the series history. But it shouldn't just be Jim we thank. We should thank Lauren Faust. Hashtag thank you Lauren. Hashtag thank you Lauren Faust. We should also do things like hashtag thank you Nicole Dubuc. Hashtag thank you Megan McCarthy. Hashtag thank you Josh Aber. Hashtag thank you M.A. Larson. Hashtag thank you Joanne and Christine Lady Writers. And so on. Hashtag thank you Daniel Ingram for the best music any series has ever had, orchestrated or lyric-wise. We should thank hashtag thank you hashtag MLP creative staff. Thank you for all you did. For some of us, the journey is not over, for we may not want to be spoiled by these early international releases. But I will say this. I am grateful. Because I never thought I'd become a fan. And it's because of the fan base themselves and what these people have done that have made me become so. So with that said, folks, I want to know what your thoughts are. Comment down below, and I will talk to y'all later.